Hey everybody, so today we're going to be taking a look at Vulkan on the Potato Masher on Doom, because that's the only Vulkan game I have available to test. Vulkan is a newish API. It's kind of a reincarnation of AMD's Mantle API, which came and went a few years ago, and Vulkan's supposed to be bigger, badder, better, and allow better access for developers to access your computer hardware compared to DirectX 12, which is supposed to be a bit bloated and unwieldy, and the same kind of goes for OpenGL, although Vulkan really has been compared more to DirectX 12 as far as I've seen, but Doom is one of the first games to actually get a Vulkan patch, so we have to compare it to OpenGL. Now, unfortunately, Fraps and MSI Afterburner will not hook on Vulkan as of right now, so I can't actually do my normal frame rate testing. Doom has this pretty awesome built-in performance monitor, so I've put that on each side of the screen, as you can see, and we just have to kind of follow along in real time. So sorry about that, but a lot of you guys have been asking me to check out Vulkan on the Potato Masher, so this is the best I am able to do with the equipment I have right now. Originally, I had plans to show you guys gameplay from two different sections of the game. This first bit that I've played in numerous tests, and then a bit about midway through the game right when you get back from hell the first time. Spoilers, but the game's been out for a few months. Unfortunately, as has happened once before on my personal rig, Doom, after an update, ate my saves and said they were corrupted and I had to start over. And I've tried numerous fixes that I found online. Some of them worked on my regular computer, but on the Potato Masher I have not found a fix that works, so unfortunately I had to start the campaign over again, and that's really unfortunate, and I kind of hope it fixes that because it's really unacceptable for a non-modded game to be eating save files. But anyway, on to testing what we're able to. Now for this first test, don't pay too much attention to the frame timing in the upper right hand corner. You'll see where it says CPU, GPU, average, minimum, maximum, and last. Because I'm not running VSync and I'm running at native 1080p, I'm trying to crush the frame rate as much as I can and crush the card and the CPU as much as I can. So the frame timing is going to be all over the place because the frame rate's all over the place. That's on purpose. I'm trying to push it as hard as I can at the moment. So I'm running on medium settings at native 1080p, no resolution scaling like I use in the actual Doom Potato Masher test. So you can compare them kind of just on a frame rate level right now. And as far as frame rates go, there doesn't appear to be a huge difference. Like, a lot of people online were really excited that Vulkan was going to be some new wondrous API that would fix all our troubles and we'd never have to look at DirectX 12 again. And as usual, that's kind of a case of the internet hype machine getting a little away from itself. On Radeon cards, on AMD cards, it seems to actually be pretty awesome and seems to give them a pretty significant boost. And on some NVIDIA cards, there's a pretty significant boost, and on others, there's not really much of a difference, or it's slightly worse, or it's just about the same. So I would definitely say it's about the same on the Potato Masher when I'm running with no VSync. Nothing like that, I'm just letting the game do whatever it wants. Now, in my opinion, Vulkan is running about the same right now as OpenGL. Now remember, this is with no VSync or anything else turned on, so frame timing's all over the place, and it appears to be running basically the same. You know, second to second, there's a few differences. If I'm looking at a wall, frame rate goes up, looking at an explosion, frame rate goes down, but I tried to match movements somewhat. I'm doing the same general things throughout the room, and overall it looks about the same. The Potato Masher will go up into the 70s in OpenGL, and then it occasionally hits the low 70s on Vulkan. I didn't really see upper 70s, but again, that's really close, and that could just be an aberration. But most of the time, the game stays in the high 40s to mid 50s on both APIs, and there aren't any significant differences. Although, to me, it also looks like the OpenGL side does have a little bit higher frame rates on average. It looks like Vulkan is struggling a bit more. So now I am running the exact same settings I used in the original Potato Masher test. I'm running everything on a 75% resolution scale at medium settings, anisotropic filtering turned up, because on medium it only starts at 2x, which is kind of dumb if you're gaming on a PC. Anisotropic filtering is pretty much a free option at this point. And of course the other virtual texture page file thing turned down, and no compute shaders. But you can see right here that OpenGL also appears to be running a little bit better. You know, this indoor section, there's a lot going on, a ton of explosions. It's really easy to get light frame rate drops, and it happens on both the Potato Masher and the PS4 in this section. But as we get outside, take a look at the frame timing. So now that I've got VSync on, we can actually make a couple conclusions from frame timing. So ignore where it goes yellow if the frame timing goes from 16.66 to 16.68 or something. That's a negligible difference. You can't tell that in the real world. But if it gets above 20 for more than a few frames, that is noticeable. It'll feel like a little bit of a stutter. Anything between 16 and 20, if it just does it for a frame or two, isn't that noticeable. Anything above 20 is fairly noticeable, and if it sustains above 20, that feels pretty bad. So as you can see, Vulkan is a little bit worse than OpenGL once again. Not a huge difference, but when I was playing it, I could feel the difference, and you can see it there in the graphs just a little bit. So it's not a massive difference, but it does appear to be running a little bit worse, and it did feel a little worse as I was playing with it. Vulkan's not bad. Vulkan appears to be awesome for AMD cards, but I'm not convinced Vulkan's making that much of a difference on this particular hardware configuration. Now, I have seen plenty of people with 970s or 1080s or a variety of other hardware who say it's made a huge difference. And I see other people who said it hasn't made much of a difference at all, and then in this case it seems like it might actually be a little worse. So the only conclusion you can draw from this is no, Vulkan is not going to fix all your problems. If the game ran worse before, it might run better now. It might run worse. It might run exactly the same. Same thing if the game ran great before. It might run better, might run worse, might run about the same. So it's worth testing Vulkan on your hardware in this game if you're having performance issues, and especially if you're running an AMD card, because you might get a significant difference and it might make the game quite a bit better. But if it doesn't run any better for you, I wouldn't worry about it too much. Just go back to OpenGL and maybe we'll see if Vulkan gets more updates in the future that make a bigger difference across the board. So I couldn't make another Doom video without revisiting the resolution debate once again. So if you remember from the original video and from the retest I did, I said that id confirmed that the PlayStation 4 does use resolution scaling at times to maintain its frame rate, and I said that it doesn't look like it's running at 1080p a lot of the time. Not that I know that it isn't, because I can't do proper pixel counting with the hardware that I have, but it doesn't look like it's running at the same 1080p as the Potato Masher was. Now, there are plenty of awesome theories in the comments, plenty of good discussion with you guys, and a common suggestion was that the PS4 might be running lower sharpening than the Potato Masher. The Potato Masher is running the default 2.0 sharpening filter in the original tests. And people said, hey, maybe the PS4 is running lower than that. Maybe it's running 1, maybe it's running 0. So here, the Potato Masher is running 0 sharpening, so it's running less than native sharpening, or less than its default amount of sharpening at medium settings. And the two platforms look a lot closer than they have at any point previous. If you look at these close-ups of the gun, to me it still does look like the Potato Masher has a slight edge. It looks like it is slightly higher resolution, but I mean, this is very, very close. We're getting down to splitting hairs now, which makes sense, because if the PS4 is dropping resolution, it's not dropping by a ton. It's probably dropping to the equivalent of like 900p, although I think it's just dropping horizontal res and not vertical. But it's not a big difference, but to me, I still do see a bit of a difference, and you can check some screenshots in the description below if you want to see for yourself, because YouTube, of course, is going to compress the crap out of this. But yeah, I think there is still a little bit of a difference, although it's closer than it ever has been. And just to take a look at the differences in sharpening, in the sharpening filter, here it is running with 0 sharpening, and then I'm just stepping up through the various sharpening levels. Now you can adjust these 0.1 step at a time, but I'm just going whole steps. I'm going from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. And I wouldn't use 3 or 4 on your own rig unless you're using resolution scaling, and that will sharpen it up quite a bit and it can look nice. But if you're running native resolution, I think it starts looking way too overly sharpened and it doesn't look good. So here outside, as you can see again, I think the Potato Masher does look slightly better, but it's such a slight difference that by the time YouTube compresses this, you honestly might not be able to tell. And it is obvious that the PS4 is running close to 1080p, but of course we knew that already, and we know that it should be running at 1080p at least some of the time. And here, once again, you can see the different sharpening filters. So if you just want to see what that looks like on an outdoor scene. Now, the important takeaway from this, just like it was in the original video and in the retest, is that Doom is an impressive technical accomplishment on both platforms, any optimization issues aside. It looks really awesome on the PS4, it looks really awesome on the Potato Masher. Honestly, at this point, after all these tests, I don't really care what resolution it is running at on the PS4, as long as it looks good. And all I really care about the Potato Masher is that it looks good regardless of what resolution scaling it's using. I still think the Potato Masher has a very slight visual edge, but it's so close that unless I told you which was which and you saw like a performance overlay, I don't think you'd be able to tell the difference. I honestly don't know why they wouldn't use a little bit of a sharpening filter. Maybe that costs a little more performance on the PS4. Who knows? I haven't seen anything reliable about it when I've Googled it, so I don't think the developers made any official statement about that. But regardless, on the PC, you can use the sharpening filter. I highly recommend it. Tune it up to your taste. It makes a significant difference, especially if you're running at a sub-native resolution. Hopefully this has been eye-opening or interesting, or now you know that Vulkan is not the savior of everything unless you're running a Radeon card. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.